Well, what happened? How are you? Hmm.
Well, I'm better now, Jeffrey. There was a neighbour of mine that was bugging me. He was screwing things in with a hammer drill or something like this for the last hour. So I got on the phone and complained and went back to meditation.
Yeah, I can help with things like that. Not stopping other people from doing anything, but it can help us relate to our discomfort.
Suffering. I was definitely suffering,
Definitely so. Yes, it can help with our suffering.
and he needed a break anyway. He was going at it. He needed a break.
Ah, it's so interesting how when my mind doesn't go out into the world, my mind isn't bothered by the world.
Is that for me, Jeffrey?
That's for all of us.
Okay.
So, I don't know if I'm the only person that has this issue, but I still am having my feet fall asleep.
Mm.
I have to move around a lot.
Mm.
Is that very uncommon?
Not terribly uncommon. Um, there's a couple of things, a couple of ways to approach it. One is to simply bring mindfulness to it and notice what happens to our mind when the discomfort appears to us. What is, how does our mind react? Do we get fearful? What kind of stories do we tell ourselves? That's one approach, you know. Second approach is just to move around and get a little bit more comfortable. Um, a third approach might be to find a different way to sit, find a different posture. If you're
I
sitting
didn't.
on a zafu and zabuton,
Hmm.
maybe um, I don't know if you're doing a half lotus or what
Ah,
your legs are like, but maybe just putting one leg up and then the other leg slightly in front of on the zabuton rather than having them rest on one another. That can relieve
mhm.
some pain. Or to um, take the zafu and turn it on its side and then uh, kneel on it, put it underneath our sits bones and just sit on it that way with bent knees.
Oh, okay. I
Sort of
can try that.
seiza position, it's called. Or you could try a meditation bench, which is also in the seiza position. So there are a number of different ways to work with it. Um, I advocate the mindfulness way first because we can learn a lot that way, uh, as opposed to just moving, just reacting and trying to make it go away. Not that that isn't a viable option. It's just that it short circuits what we can learn about ourself. None of them are right or wrong. They're just different ways.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just chime in to say you are not alone. I actually have I have a Seiza bench that I use sometimes when I'm feeling particularly challenged that way. And often when I'm sitting, my legs will just, one of my legs in particular, the leg that's on top, which is usually my left leg, just when it starts to really fall asleep, um, it becomes almost painful. So I do try to sit with it for a while, but for me at least, I figure that if I am losing my ability to remain mindful around it, there comes a point at which it's just, better for me to just move it out of the way and just sit. But it's frustrating. For me at least, I'll just say it gets frustrating because I find that I want to be a certain way, and I want to sit a certain way, and I want to, look like the Buddha or something, that's representations. I want to be sitting in a posture. And it's, for me, it's just not always like that. And I've just had to say, that's okay. First of all, I'm sitting, so good. Okay. Part one. And then second, especially if I have been feeling it more often than not, or like that falling asleep quality, to sit seiza, whether it's on the zafu or on the bench, just because I know, okay, it's going to feel a little better. And you know what? After a while, it goes away and I can go back to sitting just, half lotus. So anyway, I just mostly wanted to say, you're not alone. I'm right there. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott, for sharing that.
Yeah. Thank you. I actually do move around. I try exactly what you said and try to be mindful as long as I can, and then gently move a little bit. But I actually have been having to lay down because I didn't know about the other position. So thank you for sharing that. I'll try that. Thank you.
Hmm. Well, I wanted to share a reading with you. Hopefully, see if I can read it without glasses since I don't see mine. Oh, here they are. I was reading some Stonehouse earlier today. Came across this. The body's lifetime is like a bubble's. May as well let things go. Plans and events seldom agree. Who can step back doesn't worry. We blossom and fade like flowers. We gather and part like clouds. Earthly thoughts I forgot long ago, withering away on a mountain peak. I've never treasured thoughts of success. I welcome old age and enjoy being free. grass shoes, a bamboo staff, the last month of spring, paper curtains, plum blossoms, daybreak, dreams. Eternal life and Buddhahood are utter illusions. Freedom from worry and care is the practice. Last night, the howling pine wind spoke. This is something the deaf can't hear. Day after day, I let things go. Why worry about tomorrow, today? The four afflictions are hard to predict. Wealth and honor don't last. Lakeside villas are swallowed by vines. Streamside trails disappear into weeds. Such things are very easy for all to see, but no one is willing to look. I think about those moments in life when we're suffering and in pain, and how solid sometimes that seems, how entrenched in it feels. And yet if we can step back and notice how ephemeral this all is, and how brief this all is. For some, that is painful. That thought, that recognition is painful. For others, it's freedom. But it can be helpful to step back and notice that we're not just this particular circumstance and moment. If we notice, if we slow down, we see that things are always changing. And if we're one who is fond or conditioned to grasp, well, we're in for some sound suffering. But if we can summon the courage to not grasp and to let go and to be open, to step back into this wider view and recognition, then it's not so painful, not so much suffering. Sitting can help us to do that. Can help us sort of let go of the habitual thought and stories that we tell ourselves, that reification of ego, that selfing, that constant creating of the self. we can venture beyond, as again, if it was Rumi or Hafiz said, that field beyond right and wrong. We can get beyond that conceptual thought. It looks a lot different and feels a lot different. And we can learn to not take it all so seriously. Not take it all so personally.
Jeffrey, I find it so interesting that the things that you speak of, that you choose topics on, are frequently exactly what I need to hear. I'm grateful to hear those things. I find that my story sometimes becomes something that I grasp instead of being able to let it go. And I have to remind myself that it is just a moment in time and that it changes and it's impermanent. And just so interesting because my day just completely went today from a pretty bumpy start to, kind of flat and then just amazing. So, and just felt really connected with people by the end of the day, and just really have to remind myself that. So grateful for these words and for this practice, for you being able to bring these teachings to me. Thank you.
If we learn to be open and sort of get out of the way, sort of, who was it? It was Joe Hall, who made a comment during one of our meetings. He was talking about his ego. He said, my well-worn practice, or he called it something like that. Like our ego is something we just habitually practice. It's just, we habitually use it, reify it, tell the stories, believe the stories, make decisions based on the stories, and that's how we go. That's the normal everyday MO of getting through this mundane householder life. And we can do something else too. And when we get out of the way, then the wisdom that is inherent shines through. That's what they talk about. That's the description of the highest teachings, is luminous awareness of basic space, as they say in Dzogchen, or the luminous Dharmakaya, it's amazing what happens when we trust and open and let the ego get out of the way, drop it for a bit. I don't know, I find it those times such a relief, such work that we're so accustomed to doing, and then we don't do that work, and it's amazing. It's that natural innate light can shine through and does. Through all of us. So when it gets tough, just keep breathing. Just keep breathing. In recovery, there's a saying that we only need to take it one day at a time. And in Zen, there are those days where we just take it one breath at a time. But we can always come back to ourself, to our deeper self. Really, it's a simple matter of mindfulness, of remembering. So one way to think about our sitting is that we're being still and remembering our true nature, our original face. And we do that by letting things drop away. So like I think we talked about maybe a week or two ago, this is not a practice of accumulating anything. It's really a practice of letting go. That's its nature. Anyone else? Well, for those of you who are participating in the practice period and are unable to join the Tuesday meetings, and you would like a transcription, then let me know and I will send it out to you when it's ready. Just email me or text me and let me know. And I hope that the practice period is going well for you, that you're settling in, finding rhythm, finding a way of practicing that works for you. And if there are issues or things that come up, feel free to reach out and we can work on them together. So good to see you all this evening. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your presence. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to practice together like this. So I hope you have a good week. And when it gets tough, remember, just a breath at a time, a moment at a time.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yeah,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see you all.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Night.